Here are the player grades for 2025 and AFLW Dominance.
Going! Nathan Thompson gets the fist pumping and goes caught some of that. We're heading to the finals.
Hello guys, welcome back to Further North. Now, 8 days since the last podcast because we've been live streaming. Sorry to those who do only listen on Spotify and Apple. I want to still get podcasts out. They will be here. But we've been live streaming a lot and I've had a very, very busy time. But very exciting episode today. We have the player reviews, the player grades for 2025. We've done two parts over on the stream. So if you were on the streams, you would have heard these ratings before. But what I'm going to do today is basically give you a recap of everything we did and a little reasoning why we gave the grades we did. So we're going to get into that in a second. But first, let's be honest. If you're not on the YouTube channel yet, that's where all the main stuff happens. Thank you to everyone listening on Spotify and Apple, leaves 5-star reviews. It does mean a lot. And I really, really appreciate it. You guys are the OGs. I did that before YouTube. But there is going to be a lot of stuff going on over there. So if you haven't subscribed yet, my goal is 2,000 subscribers by the end of the year. We are very, very close. I would really appreciate if you could get over there. Like, comment, and the live streams are really, really fun. You know, I'm talking, you guys are in the chat. We're going back and forth. I put your chats up on the screen. We're going to do fan cams again and get people on and that sort of stuff. So that's the place to be. So if you haven't subscribed over there, please do. Facebook, Instagram, obviously the best ways to contact me and follow along, especially Instagram. Sorry to everyone on Facebook who I'd never get back to. I don't check it very much. All right, so before we get into the player ratings, we're going to do a quick AFLW review because the girls are killing it. The girls are going back to back. We've been saying this since the preseason, and my God, they are incredibly good. Today, we played Collingwood at our home at Arden Street, and it was an interesting one. It was very, very even in the first quarter. It's probably the biggest challenge North has really faced this season. I mean, look, that being said, Collingwood didn't score in the first quarter, but we only scored 8 points. So it was very, very close. We didn't score a goal until the 16-minute mark of the first quarter. So it was an arm wrestle. Collingwood came to fight. They were winning the centre clearance. I don't know the numbers exactly. I've got the stats in front of me that I'll look at soon. But from the eye test, they definitely won the midfield battle or got the clearance out. But it was after they won the clearance and disposed of it that we really took over. Our defenders were fantastic at stopping their run, not letting them score, and getting the ball into the hands of the users to bring that ball forward. Two players I love today is Erica O'Shea and Emma Carney. They were fantastic, especially Erica at the start of the game. I think Emma had a better game as we went through, but Erica O'Shea was fantastic. The run and drive she gives us off that half back line is fantastic. A lot of speed. That ponytail just like flapping in the breeze when she's at full tilt. And the kick, I mean, she's got a great kick on her, a very penetrating kick that can get that ball up the line. So the full package, she's great. Emma Carney and her worked really well along that half back line. Emma Carney has got a bit more of a sidestep and a bit more of a composure game where Erica's got that pace and that explosion that she runs off half back. So I thought they were fantastic today. The second quarter, though, is when we really, really turned it on. Highlighted, of course, by the second goal of the quarter, which Vicky Wall hit the packet pace right in the gut, and she's exploded through. I was so excited when I saw that. I've jumped up and gone, "Oh yes, Vicky!" And she's burst through. And her and Blahim, I think that's the name. I'm really sorry. I think that's the one I've stuck with, and what everyone has told me it is. I apologize until it's fluent. But obviously, my two favorite players right now, the Irish connection is unbelievable. And it was a 1-2-3 handball just between the two. I love Vicky Wall's bounce, where the Irish bounce, where they're throwing it on the ground. And they got the job done. It was a fantastic goal. One of the goals of the season and one of the most exciting things, you know, from the season so far. I mean, Vicky hit the packet pace. If you haven't seen it, I put it on my story over on Instagram. Go and watch that. She just goes bang, picks that ball up, links up, and it's an open goal. They just couldn't deal with the pace. Talia Randall goal before that for her first of the game. Blaheen's second of the game. Kicked the second of the game for us. Kate Sherlaw, A player that's down this year. I loved Kate Sherlock last year, and I really hope she hits her form by the crunch time of the season because we need her, even though Randall has been fantastic down there. Not quite hitting the mark this season, Kate Sherlock, a little bit down. There was questions if she would retire or not. She's come back for another year, which, I'm obviously not saying is the wrong decision because I hope she can get there, and she's such an experienced player that she can. But the old legs maybe stick her in the goal square to go one-on-one. But anyway, yeah, that was basically it for that second quarter. But we dominated them. I mean, they didn't have any points on the board at halftime. We had 22 points on the board. And then the third quarter, second half, it's really just more of the same, except we converted on the scoreboard a little bit more, to be honest. They got their first goal of the game. And then we just went bang, bang, bang. I mean, Bella Eddy kicks one. Talia Randall kicks her second of the game. Alice O'Loughlin, who's always so dangerous, she's got that face about her, like, I'm better than you face. You know what I mean? She's sort of always like, she's locked in. She's concentrated. There's a little bit of cockiness there, which I don't hate. But 3 goals in a row, which just put the game basically beyond doubt. If it wasn't already, my favourite, Tess Craven, of course, kicking a behind, Alice O'Loughlin another behind. And then, fourth quarter started and, it was pretty cruisy from there. The Pies kicked their second of the game and then, we sort of just controlled the flow of it. Ruby Tripodi had a fantastic game, kicked a goal. Vicky Wall kicking the last goal of the game. And, all my favourite players here. Blaheen kicking a point. Not the best goal return from her this game. And yes, 1 goal is bad for her because she just kicks goals. That is not meant in a negative way at all. She's fantastic. So, another good win by us. Didn't feel like we dominated it quite as much. Do you know what I mean? But, we were still on top the whole game. I mean, when you're beating teams by 100 points the week before, it is hard to feel like this game, was a domination like last week, even though it absolutely was. I'm going to have a look at a few of the stats here. Apologize if I'm looking down. I just want to look on my phone because it's easier than the computer screen. And I don't want to bump the laptop because then the camera moves. We won basically everything. The thing in the W is always the goal efficiency. I mean, 16% goal efficiency from us and 8 from the Pies is harsh. Look, the centre clearances, we ended up winning them. It just felt like, and we got on top as the game went on. It just, that first half, it didn't feel like we were on top. Hitouts wise, 26-21. So the Pies won the hitouts. But the centre clearance is pretty even, 7-6. But, and that's sort of what I pointed out before. Like the first half, they definitely felt like they were on top. Second half, we got our composure back around the middle. But the stoppage clearances were the dominant thing around the ground. And that's where we dominated all day. Credit to the Pies, though. They came out and tried to play an attacking brand of football against us. And it's very easy to try and play defensive against the best team in the comp. But, they tried to handball their way through. They had a few runs. They got a lot of, like, what's the inside 50s count? I'd like to know. I mean, only the marks inside 50 are crazy, 12-5 in our favour. Does it have inside 50s? Here we go. 25-48. So nowhere near as many as I thought, but I feel like they were really getting the ball over halfway a lot. That's interesting from the eye test because I feel like they got in there more. But I'm leading on with this because the player that I really want to point out, and there's a few down in the back line, but Libby Birch, she was fantastic down there. I think she had the most intercepts for the game, 13 intercept possessions. How many marks for her? She would have been up there as well, 7. Her and Carney did the work down there, but Libby Birch was fantastic. I need to give the defenders some praise because the midfielders and the forwards in the W, easy to give praise. And look, the defenders don't see much ball because we are so dominant. But any time that the Pies went into that 50, especially the first half, she was cutting absolutely everything off. I thought she was fantastic today. Carney, Birch, O'Shea were absolute standouts in the back line. And it's interesting, but because we have so much ball in our forward half, it really takes some good performances to stand out in that back line. I mean, Jasmine Ferguson spoiling absolutely everything down there. And look, we've already talked about Erica O'Shea. The run that she provides was fantastic. I mean, Tess Craven always dropping down there to be a link-up option on the wing for us. Taylor Gatt is someone I pointed out last week. man, she can run. Her and Tess cover so much ground. Gat usually more of a threat forward while Tess goes back and gets the ball off the back line. But it all just works so well. And then the forward line. I mean, Jenna Bruton was one we didn't see much of today. But Blaheen, Alice O'Loughlin, Talia Randall, those three work so well down there. Vicky Wall doing work down there as well. Vicky Wall gave away a few free kicks early in the game, getting her iron for the tackle, but then there was a few tackles today that were absolutely crunching. And I think Jasmine Ferguson did one of those as well. One of the Pies players put a hospital handball in and then bang, she got absolutely mowed to the ground. So it was unreal stuff. Ruby Tripodi getting more midfield time as well, which is something we didn't see as much last year. She was one of the best on the ground for me. 29 touches, 1 goal, 1, and 11 contested possessions. But she just found the football, and I really like her in the middle. Her stepping up in the absence of a Jasmine Garner is really, really exciting. I mean, Mia King, Ash Riddell was Ash Riddell. And yeah, it's just a classic North performance. You know, it's not Eilish, is it? It's Ailish. Is that how Tess pronounced it? I'm so sorry. Sheeran, our recruit over from the Tigers, I think she was really, really good, sort of roaming around that half back and getting into the midfield as well. And Bellaretti a couple of games back, I think she's warming into it a little bit. But I think, they all play so well off each other. So there was some fantastic performances. It's going to be really hard to give my votes for this game because there's so many players that I do want to praise. But just overall, there's so much connection with this team. And if you're not on the W yet, and I'm not forcing anyone to watch the W because I understand some people aren't in yet, but it is so much fun. The crowds north get it great. The atmosphere's there. And the girls are really good. They're really, really good. Tessa Boyd was a late out as well, I should mention. I'm not someone I've really heard of before. Ariana Hetherington, the most British name I've ever heard. I wonder if she's British. Came in, not going to pretend like I saw. There's a few players that were part of the change but didn't do anything crazy outstanding for me. Once again, not a criticism, just pointing it out. But, Ariana, Amy Smith, Eliza Shannon, they played their roles, nothing bad. No one ever plays bad on our team, but maybe didn't stand out as much as the others. But there's always players like that on a team that is so good. You know what I mean? What I liken it to is like Camden McIntosh from the Tigers. Genuinely couldn't have even told you he was on those premiership teams back in the day. But now he's like one of their better players, even though he's off. I understand that. But, they're playing their role. So please don't think it's a diss whatsoever. Jenna Bruton is probably one that I, would have loved a little bit more from today. But once again, she wasn't bad whatsoever. Just didn't find the football quite as much. 10 touches for the day for her and good ball use, 70%. But she can be a goal threat, which, Blaheen's sort of come in and taken the spotlight in the forward line. She's been the best forward so far this year. She only played 3 or 4 games. And Talia Randall was a standout down there. So, Kate Sherlock, Jenna Bruton, Kim Rennie tries a hard out in the ruck, but I think there's an area of improvement there for me. We never really win the hitouts. So if she can get on top and start winning those hitouts, I think we can be really, really good. So, look, not trying to find negatives, but we just bloody dominate at the level, don't we? So let's try and give 3 votes for this game, and then we're going to get into part 2 of the podcast, which is going through the player grades for the men's. What do I do here? I mean, on the eye test, I didn't maybe feel like Ash Riddell dominated as much as she did. But the numbers, 16 contested possessions, highest for the game, I believe. Another 36 touches. Look, we don't even miss Jasmine Garner, which is insane, which is absolutely insane because she's the best player in the comp. Riddell's getting votes. I've got to give Ruby Tripodi votes for stepping up in the absence of a Garner. And Libby Birch has to get votes. So they're going to be the 3 for me. Shout out to Carney. I thought she was great. Shout out to Erica O'Shea. I thought she was great as well. Oh, it's so hard, man. Mia King had so much ball. Oh, man. All right. Oh, it's harsh not giving Riddell the 3, but I'm not going to be honest, because I'm going to go off the eye test. Honestly, I kind of want to give Libby, she was the standout from the eye test for me. I kind of want to give Libby Birch the 3 because I think she was so solid back there. Libby Birch gets 3, Tripodi gets 2, and Riddell gets 1. And that's harsh on Riddell because her numbers are absolutely unbelievable. But I think the others had a lot more impact today. I think Tripodi stepping up in that midfield role over for Jasmine Garner, kicking a goal, having a lot of contested possessions, great disposal efficiency as well. So yeah, Libby Birch, Tripodi, and Ash Riddell. There's 3, 2, 1 for you. All right. And look, where's the next game? Let's have a look at the next game. We play the Lions. Oh, yes, that'll be a great game. When is that? Sunday at 3 o'clock up in Ipswich in Queensland. So make sure you're watching on the telly. That'll be very, very exciting, and we'll come and review that one for you as well. That's going to be the first big test of the year, but the Lions in 9th spot don't seem quite as dominant as last year. Did they win today? Let me just have a look. But, I mean, where are they? Not even, so they've only won 2 out of 4. North Melbourne's percentage is 492. It's crazy. So, look, I'm excited to play the D's, the Swans, and the Hawks. I mean, these 3 teams haven't lost a game yet. So, look, hopefully there's some competition for North this year. Even though I think we're going to absolutely crush everybody. I don't expect to lose a game, to be honest, which is crazy stuff. Brisbane did win. They just beat the Crows by 3 points. But the Crows are 8th and 9th. So, okay, they've only won 2 out of 4. So, anyway, we're cooking. The girls are cooking. This is exciting. Get around the W, guys. Seriously, it is a fun time. All right, part 2 of the pod, and I don't want to spend too much time talking about the players here. I'd like to keep this pod around an hour. We're going to go through every single player on the list. I'm going to tell you the grading. This was decided by me and the chat on the live streams. So I don't agree with every single one, but we came to a majority vote on all of these. We're going to go about a minute each on these players and give you a quick rundown and give you why they got that sort of vote. Please remember, and this was hard for people to understand last year. This year at the start of the chat, people were a bit confused, but then they got into it. I don't understand why everyone doesn't grade this way. I think this is just the way you grade. Maybe I'm overcomplicating it by explaining it. The gradings are not what sort of player they are on our list. Harry Sheezel is an A-plus player on our list, but he did not get an A-plus because of the year he had. We're grading on what we expected versus what they delivered. Remember that, okay? Expectation versus what they delivered. It'll make sense as we go on. Okay. And please subscribe and all that sort of stuff to this. And I love that you guys got involved with the chats and things like that. I thought that was really, really cool. All right. Finn O'Sullivan, number 2. We have a number 1 on our list. We're going in number order here. Got a B+. Got a B+ for Finn O'Sullivan. Do we expect him to play every game? I mean, potentially. But this is once again, B+ may be a little bit harsh. Incredibly solid by Finn O'Sullivan. Incredibly solid season. A B+. If he had that breakout like Shees did or Colby did, then you're looking at A's and things like that. Realistically, B+ is a very fair vote for Finn O'Sullivan. The epitome of consistently solid, reliable, really underrated first season, but can't be an A+ because he didn't blow us away like a Shees or a McKercher did in year 1, right? So I think B+ is fair. Put your comments down below as well on YouTube. Go easy on me. I know we're not all going to agree. This is always the most controversial pod of the year. Everyone gets upset by the ratings, but please try and understand how I'm ranking people. Speaking of Harry Sheezel, B- for Harry Sheezel. Now, this one stirred up some controversy on the live chat. Harry Sheezel's year was down, even though it was a fantastic numbers-wise year for him. Everyone who watches the games knows that Harry Sheezel did not have the impact that we know him to have. The expectation of him, we were talking about him like Nick Dacos last year, and he was very, very close to. This year didn't hit that at all. And it's such a high expectation for a 20-year-old. I understand that. But that was what we expected from him going into the year. A down year impact-wise, numbers-wise was still good. Yes, Clarko threw him around a lot and had to find his role, but He found it towards the end of the year. I think overall for the 24 games, B- is pretty fair for Sheezel because we know he can do so much more, and he will do so much more. Next year, he's going to be in the A's. I have no doubt about that. But yeah, I think we can all agree a slightly down year by Shees. B- I think is fair. B-, but hey, pretty close if not. Put your ratings down below for that. Once again, this is not just my opinion. This is the chat's opinion. So don't go too hard in the comments, please, because I'm friendly. Aiden Core, we've given a C-. Did get injured, I understand that, but was a drop-worthy candidate a lot this season. Missed the majority of the games, but I think when he played, he was okay at best, and then there's a few games where he was drop-worthy. Did get dropped early in the season, I believe, as well. So not the best year from Aiden Core. Yes, absolutely injury plays a factor, and we took that into consideration, but I think we wanted a lot more from Aiden Core. I think C- to me, I feel like in the chat, if I remember, C- was a little bit harsh. I would have gone maybe a C, but C- in the end was voted by the chat. Caleb Daniel, here's the one that I knew would stir up some controversy. We've gone C+ for Caleb Daniel. I think a little bit harsh. You guys know my thoughts on Caleb Daniel. I think he's so over-criticised, and we blame him for other people's shortcomings on the field when he has to try and clean up for a lot of our midfield's lack of defensive ability. But in the end, C+ is probably fair. Even I can admit I expected more from him, even though I don't think he was as bad as anyone really thinks. I think they're way too harsh. He didn't quite live up to the expectation, even though I think he will over the 4 years. So C+ for Caleb Daniel. I think he'll come back bigger and better with a Jackson Archer or Luke McDonald if we recruit in that area as well. I think he will come back and be a really, really important cog. You saw in those games where we had possession and our midfield wasn't letting that ball come through every 5 seconds, how good he was at unlocking our transition from halfback. That Richmond game personifies it, where he got the ball in halfback, found LDU over the top, right through the middle, and we've just blazed through. And I think that was the Zerha goal to lead off that game. So he'll get there, but C+ I think is fair, if not maybe a B-. Speaking of B-, George Wardlaw got a B-. I love George Wardlaw, and I love what he did when he came back from the concussion after the Hawthorn game. But the year before, and Bixie the Rescue Cat, if you're listening, you'll be the first to know this, he was down. His intent was always there. His willingness to get the ball, his defensive pressure was always there. But the disposal was shocking. He was running around with 30% disposal efficiency games. And it's year 3. We need Wardlaw to be the guy now. You know what I mean? Coming off a hamstring injury, obviously set him back in the preseason, even though he did most of the preseason. But I take that into consideration. That's why he only got a B-. Fantastic form at the end of the year. And if he keeps that up, he'll be in the A's next year. No worries at all. But I think B- is pretty fair because majority of the year, I think Wardlaw was flat, very, very flat. Came back round 6, played every game up until the Hawthorn game, right? That's the one I think he got concussed. And in that big patch of games, 10-odd games or so, he didn't live up to the expectation that we had for him. So B-. Zane Dersma, a D- here. I was actually on the train of F for Durs. I'm pretty flat on Durs at the moment. I am questioning how good he's going to be going forward now, and I know other people aren't going to do that. I just think it's such a flat year from a player that had opportunities, got dropped multiple times, couldn't find his footing in a position. And I don't just think that's the coaching staff moving him around. I think that's him not performing in those positions. He should be dominating the twos, and he didn't. So, they tried him in the midfield. They tried him in halfback, in the forward line. He didn't really tear up trees in any of those positions, to be honest with you. So, yeah, D- because the chat was a little bit more forgiving, but I would have been a component for an F for him. Let me know what you guys think as well. Is D- fair for Durs? He did have a couple of moments. The goal against Essendon, he took a decent mark once at the end of the year where it was a bit of air. Durs was back from the year before, but that's not enough to do anything. The expectation was he probably should have played every game with his talent, right? And he barely played, it felt like. And in the twos, he didn't tear it up. So very disappointing year. Speaking of disappointing years, Bailey Scott got an F, a straight F, from top 3 in the best and fairest 3 years in a row. to being lucky to get a game. And when he got those games, he's running with 10 touches a game. The fall off with Bailey Scott should be studied. I wonder if he can come back next year and be the guy we know he can be, because that wing spot is open. It's absolutely open. So let's see. I don't know if I'm feeling super, super confident with Bailey Scott for next year anymore. He's got one more year on the list, and let's see if he can prove it to earn himself an extension. I don't think they'll trade him. I think they should look at it, but I don't think they will. So F for Bailey Scott, but I think that's pretty self-explanatory. All right, Luke Davies-Uniacke, our $1 million man, who's actually not until next season, even though we graded him like that. B- as well. We looked at it. LDU and Harry Sheezel's expectation was probably about the same, best player in the midfield, 1 and 2 best players in the midfield, all Australian squad type players, if not all Australians. And I think he was more, was he more consistent than Harry Sheezel? I don't know. I think his before the end of the year where they both clicked and both played in the midfield right, I think LDU's highs were higher, but his lows were lower. But Sheezel was sort of consistently putting up good numbers, but lacked impact. I think LDU had more impact in those games. All in all, I think it's a pretty comparable season from both of them, which is underwhelming, even though at the end of the year when we started really finding positions for everybody, I think they were really, really good. So we went B-, the same as Harry Sheezel for LDU, which I think is completely fair. I don't think one was better than the other this year. I think people will assume that LDU was worse than Sheezel, but I don't think that's the case. B-, B-. I think that's fair. Colby McKercher, A. Now, I wanted an A+. You guys know I wanted an A+. But realistically, I mean, my expectation of him was incredibly high, but the general public wasn't quite as high on Colby as I was. He gets an A. A+ would have been if he was like in an All-Australian squad or, he did have that first patch of the year where I don't think he was as bad as people thought, but, he was a little bit flatter. And some people were talking about dropping him, even though I don't know if that was real. But it's an A. I mean, I think he'll be second, if not top 3 in our best and fairest. He was phenomenal for 3/4 of the year. He was probably our best player consistently throughout the year. I think A is fair enough. Was he our best player? I think Sherry will win the best and fairest because he was consistent the whole way through. Honestly, if McKercher isn't 2, I would question the system a little bit, to be honest. But yeah, Colby, A. There's no debating that. Luke McDonald, B+. We gave a B+ to Luke McDonald. I think he was fantastic when he played. I'm not going to count him down because of the injury. Not his fault at all. But when he played, he was fantastic. Been a scapegoat on this team for years. Myself and Marnie have stuck up for him time and time again. And I remember when Jackson Archer went down, we were really, really nervous about who's going to play on the smaller forwards. I don't remember the exact games. Was it Archer played the Port Adelaide game? Anyway, over the next few games, we were really, really nervous who was going to play on the smaller forwards, and we didn't even really bother about it because Luke McDonald did the job. I remember those pods, and we were like, you know what? We'll play Luke McDonald. So B+ for him, I think, is a really solid year. Always could have done a little bit more, but I think B+ is fair, and the chat agreed on that. Jai Simpkin. This was another one where I wasn't sure which way people were going to go. We went B for Jai Simpkin. Probably met the expectation, if not slightly below. But, yes, in that Indigenous All-Stars game, he was the best player on the field that day. But I don't know if that completely changed our expectation of him. Our expectation is clearly higher of some of our other midfielders. Even Powell had a higher expectation than Simpkin, I think. Simpkin really found his role on that wing position, half forward, late in the year. But I think there were so many games where he was doing a lot of dirty work in that midfield. I really praise him for leading the club through such a hard period, like the hardest period we've ever had. Obviously, along with Elmac and Zeeble, sort of when we were falling down a bit. But I think it was a solid year from Simpkin. The turnovers were bad in a few games, and I criticised him pretty heavily for that. But I think overall it's a B. It's probably a par for Simpkin, even though I'd want a little bit more. Darcy Tucker, D. I know he got injured, and I understand that, which isn't his fault. But when he did play, every week he was a droppable candidate. I think in a game we had 0 touches this year, if I'm not mistaken. If not, maybe that was last year. But yeah, just a guy that we wanted Hardiman to come in for. Finn O'Sullivan was playing better than, just not the guy. And look, does he get delisted? I kind of think, I hope so. Not because I want anyone to be delisted, but I think we've moved past him a little bit because we're improving, and I'd give that spot to a recruit or something like that. So D for Tucker. The reason we didn't give him an F or a D- is he was still like, he was a droppable candidate, but he wasn't absolutely pathetic. You know what I mean? Like, and our standard for him wasn't crazy high like it was a Durs or a Bailey Scott. So that's why we haven't gone all the way down to an F. And that's important to remember with these ratings. It's not about like him, his stature on the list would probably be F, but our expectation wasn't as high as a Durs or a Scott. So that's why he got a slightly higher rating. Makes sense, right? Riley Hardiman. We gave him an A. I was definitely on the Goda train, even though, he was coming back from his injury, but Goda obviously didn't play a game. Hardiman. No, my mistake. I've skipped a few here. Urquhart, NA. Wow, sorry. I scrolled too far down on my phone. Urquhart, NA, didn't play a game. We're only ranking players who have played a game. If you've played 2 or 3 games in the ones and played VFL, then we will rank you on your whole package or form. But if you didn't play a game, we're not ranking you. Dylan Stevens got an A. Because expectation was incredibly low, not from me, but from everybody else. And he was a walk-up starter and played really, really well for the year. You can't give anything lower than an A for Dylan Stevens for what he produced compared to what you expected of him. Yes, I'm talking to you. Some of us saw the talent. But anyway, no, I'm going to take that one to the grave. It's one of the only predictions I've got semi-right. But anyway, Dylan Stevens an A. That's pretty obvious. Zach Fisher a D. What's going on with Zach Fisher? Was he injured or was he not? Like I felt like he carried something a lot of the time. How many games did Zach Fisher play? I should probably look this up. I'll be as still as I can on my keyboard. I should get a mouse, shouldn't I? How many games did he play? Because I do think Zach Fisher was injured a lot of the year, but the games he played that West Coast game, I remember. I don't feel like he played many. He played 7 games. Expectation, I probably expect him to play most games, being a more senior figure here. 7 games, the lowest he's played in his entire career. Yes, injury was there, but when he played, his West Coast game was exciting because he played in that small forward role, and I really wish he played more time as that small forward, but they never played him there, and he was a sub a bit, and he was just all over the place. So D, I think, is fair. Riley Hardiman, already touched on it. A for Hardiman. I didn't think he'd play as much as he did. How many games did he play? Let's have a look here. I just think we've given him an A because when he came in, he was like, you couldn't drop him. He was just a part of the team now. And I didn't know if I expect him to be as good as he was. I was on the Goda train. Obviously, Goda didn't play a game. He played 17 games. That's more than I thought he played. So A for Hardiman. If he didn't get that concussion, he would have played more. And he was a lock on that half-back line. Basically took Tucker out of the team. I know Tucker got injured, but I don't think Tucker was getting back in anyway. And when McDonald's went down, when Archers went down, he was a reliable figure down there as well. So Riley Hardiman gets an A, and I hope he's in the team all the time next year. Will Dawson, a B for Will Dawson. I would have liked to see him a little bit more, and he did get dropped, even though I think it was a bit unfair. What would he played? 5 games for the year. Obviously, his performance, 5 games. Obviously, his performance against Darcy was phenomenal, and that's why we've gone with a B. But I think there was some other games. 1-on-1, he's very suspect. Hamish McLean got the better of him against Sydney a bit. And yeah, look, he did get dropped. I didn't think he should have got dropped, but that's mainly because I want him to be the player for the future. But did his form warrant it? Potentially. It's on the line. But look, I think B for Will Dawson is fair. Didn't hold his spot when he got in, but he did get in through good VFL form, thrown forward, thrown back in the twos. Glad he's a defender because I think that's where he belongs. So I hope there's a massive preseason for Will Dawson. It might be tough if we're going to recruit a Lever or a Jordan Butts or something like that, because Comben is a lock. Pink played fantastic football. He's going to get the opportunity over Dawson to start the season, I would think. Dawson's got to find his way into the team next year as well, but he's not even 20 yet, so he's got plenty of time. I just love his size and shape. He just needs to be more solid, right? Needs to be more of a reliable defender, but stick him down back in the twos, let him make his way in and give him a run of games next year. All right, Griffin Logue, D+ for Griffin Logue. Injuries, I understand he's coming back from injury, but he ended up playing about 19 games or something, I believe, 18, 19 games. Just not quite it. I'm not completely out on Griffin Logue, just like a Pink or a Stevens. I don't want to write them off too quickly. He did come off an ACL last year and then hurt his wrist and then was out for the rest of the year. So 2 injuries the season before, came back, got his opportunities, didn't look great. I think he should have been maybe more droppable this season, but I'm not completely out on Griffin Logue just yet. I think I'll give him a preseason, let him get back to full fitness, and then let's see. Next year is his year. If he can nail down his spot, fantastic. He's only 26, 27, so he can be a player for us going forward. If not, it's probably time to move on from Griffin Logue next year. Next year is his time to prove it. So D+ for Logue, because when he was in, his defensive errors were suspect. He'd leave his man open. I mean, look at that Geelong game, leaving Jeremy Cameron open all the time. And I expect more from a senior leader at the team. We brought him over to be the number 1 defender at the time. Comben was still a forward then, and he hasn't really lived up to that at all. So D+, I think less is maybe harsh. He had some good games in there, and he is coming back still from injury, but he's in the Ds. It's not quite there. What I want you guys to do when we're listening to this and commenting, don't just give players F because you don't like them. I know some people are going to want to give Logue an F and Fisher an F and stuff. We're trying to be a bit more objective and weigh up expectations versus reality and circumstances and stuff. So we're trying to do, it's a bit of a melting pot of ideas for these players. But hey, I know how the YouTube comments go sometimes. Absolutely terrifying stuff. Nick Larkey. Got a B for Larkey. Still kicked a lot of goals in 17 games, I believe he played. Don't quote me on that, but I think it was 17. Kicked 41, I think, off the top of my head. I don't have the stats in front of me, but, when he was there, he was good. He went missing in a few games. Didn't have many bags this year, except obviously against the Bulldogs in the first quarter, but was a consistent, reliable goal scorer for us. Really upset about his injury, even though it didn't really affect us too much. I mean, look, if he was against the Crows, maybe we can win that game. But Nick Larkey, solid B, I think. His expectation was All-Australian forward, could be a Coleman chance. Didn't quite get there. 41 goals from 17 games, which is a great return, but didn't play as many games as we would have hoped. You know what I mean? So, look, I think B is pretty fair. I think B is pretty fair for Larkey, but hey, I still think he can be that guy. I mean, if our forward line can really start clicking, if a Trembath and a Larkey and a Darling can be up there and the balance can be right. I mean, look, we all said at the start of the year, him not kicking as many goals is probably a good thing. And Bull stepped up, Curtis stepped up, Darling was good. I don't think it's that bad of a season from Larkey, but probably a B, because I think he went missing in some games. And he's got a lot more to offer compared to our expectation. Coleman Jones, we went NA. I know he played 1/4 of one game, but that's not enough to go off. Taylor Goad, we went NA as well, didn't play a game. Geordie Payne, we went a B. Good on him to fight his way into the team. His form second half in the VFL was really, really good. Earned his spot in the team. Arguably should have played earlier. And then had some good games, had some games where he went a little bit missing. But I think that's a pretty solid performance from a player that I don't know if we expected him to play games. So I think B is fair. Didn't really expect him to play, broke into the team, but when he did, I don't think he was a lock for his spot or was incredibly outstanding. Kicked some goals, did some good stuff. I think a B is pretty fair. Tom Powell, this was an interesting one. Now we're into part 2 here. Tom Powell, C+ for me. Tom Powell's expectation was very, very high. And this is probably the last time I'm going to talk about Tom Powell this year because we've had our beef and we've had our ups and downs. He doesn't know that. And he doesn't care at all what I think. But he, I don't know. I think the expectation on Tom Powell this year was incredibly high. Him, LDU, Shees in the middle. That was the call. And he found his way out of the midfield. His performances in the midfield were not good enough. I've always said this about Tom Powell. I think he's a really solid player. But he leaves a lot to be desired a lot of the time. His disposal was good around the ground. I think him kicking into the forward 50 after the first part of the year improved. But in the midfield, he just wasn't really good enough. He didn't pose a threat at clearance, maybe not dynamic enough around that centre bounce. But once he moved out to the wing or half back or half forward, roaming between those lines, he was good. And I think that's the spot in the team for him. But I think there's a chance I think he finds his way on the outer if we get a proper winger or a half back. I think he's one of those players that will he play. I think he'll start and he'll get the chance, but what spot does he lock down? That's more what I'm trying to say. So C+ for Tom Powell, I think is pretty fair, under expectation, which if you disagree with that, I question if you've watched the games, to be honest. But Tom Powell, solid, slightly below his expectation, though. He's not a C+ player on the list. Once again, I'm just going to point this out again because I think this is a player people get confused by. Tom Powell is not a C+ player on the list, but his expectation was probably to be that next guy after Wardlaw, LDU, Shees, be that fourth best midfielder, and he sort of found his way out of that centre bounce rotation and had to find another spot for him. So his expectation versus reality, I think C+ is fair. A+, Paul Curtis. The first A+ we've given out. We've given A's, we haven't given an A+. You can't ask for much more for Paul Curtis. I mean, the suspensions were ridiculous. That 3-game suspension from him was just corruption at the highest order. Fair enough. A jumper punch, silly. Shouldn't have been a suspension, should have been a fine. But, 40-odd goals from Curtis, or 38, I believe. Maybe he would have got to the 40 if the AFL didn't hate North Melbourne and want to suspend players for rubbish things and not suspend Geelong or Collingwood players for the same. A+. You could not have asked more. The expectation was high, but I think he even exceeded that. 38 goals from 19 games. All-Australian conversation. Should have been 22 under 22 team. A+ for Paul Curtis. You could not have asked more from him with the games he had. I could have maybe argued an A because, I don't know, the suspensions, but it wasn't his fault, I guess. So, yeah, A+ is fair for Curtis. I think I agree with an A. Fantastic player going forward. Signed this guy like a 7-year deal as far as I'm concerned. Luke Parker. Luke Parker was an interesting one. I went with A- in the end, and the chat sort of agreed. We were floating between A- and B+. I think he is A-. I'm taking into what he did, off the field as well. And not that I was in the change rooms, but we became more of a unit this year, and you could see on the field he was barking orders, and I have no doubt he is doing that off the field as well. Really quick point for Curtis, sorry. I think he got the most tackles in the forward 50 for anybody, 4.5 tackles a game in the elite category for him, so A+ confirmed. Parker A-, I think. There was a few games where I think Parker sort of got into the habit of hack kicking it, which is, I think I would expect a little bit more from a player of his talent and seniority, I guess. But most of the time, very, very good. A couple of games where maybe he went a little bit missing, but that was mainly because the other midfielders were stepping up. I think Parker's been a fantastic recruit, and A- for me. I think everyone can agree it's around that mark. B+, A-, but A-. I think he was fantastic, and I don't doubt the stuff he does. As an on-field leader and an off-field leader as well. Miller Bergman, obviously, NA. We didn't get to rate him. Jack Darling is an A+. If you don't think Jack Darling is an A+, you don't watch North Melbourne play football, because the expectation of him, not from me, not from Marnie, we loved this signing. I always said he is not washed. If you watched West Coast play last year, he played really, really well. Kicked a goal a game last year with Allen and Waterman doing much better than him last year. Allen had some injuries, but they were the main two targets. And I don't think a player like Jake Waterman comes on if Darling isn't there. Look what Waterman did this year. I know he got injured and stuff, but he wasn't the player that he was the year before. Jack Darling would have been the Eagles' best forward all year. We got him and he was fantastic. We paid nothing for him. The expectation was low. A lot of people thought he'd play like 15 games or so. He played nearly every game, kicked more than a goal a game. Fantastic stuff from Jack Darling. And everyone by the end of the year, don't lie to yourself, everyone agrees he was a fantastic signing. It's A+, and that is non-negotiable. Will Phillips, we've gone with a C- for Will Phillips. Played 12 odd games, I believe, 12 to 15 games, but unfortunately didn't really, my bad, 7 games. That was, I'm thinking last year, 11 games last year. 7 games. It's just very, very underwhelming. He had his chances as well. And yes, sometimes we did think he was harshly dropped, harshly criticised. But none of the 7 games he played did he scream, "This is my spot. I want this." Obviously, he's not going to be in the team next year, and all the best for Will Phillips. But, I think a lot of us expected him at the start of the year to be playing more consistent football, not standing out or anything, but I don't think we expect him to play 7 games. So less games than expectation. Those games were underwhelming. C- for Will Phillips. I think that's pretty fair. Charlie Comben, here's one that me and the chat slightly disagreed on. I was going to go higher, but we've gone a B+. We've gone a B+. I sort of wanted to go A- because I feel like his contested work, how do I say, it was much improved. And he was the pillar down there, right? He played 20 games, 21 games. He was the pillar down there all year. Toby Pink was fantastic, but Comben was that pillar of consistency down there. Always really, really good. Intercept game was still there, but added one-on-one defending to his game. I would have gone maybe A- but the chat suggested B+. I can't exactly remember the reasoning behind that. But I think B+ is maybe a little bit harsh. I'm going to overrule this one and say A- for me for Chom, but the chat said B+, so look, that's what we've got written down here. Josh Goda was an NA. Toby Pink was an A+. Of course, Toby Pink was an A+. This is another one like Jack Darling. There was no expectation. I mean, he had lower expectation than Jack Darling. Toby Pink, most people wouldn't even thought he'd played a game this year, and he was undroppable. When he got dropped after that D's game, myself, was probably arguably the loudest, but only because I got the platform, of course, but the fan base was loud. Like, why are we dropping this guy? Do not drop this guy. And he came back in. Our defense looked great there, and then he came back in and never lost his spot for the rest of the year. A+ for Toby Pink. You could not overexceed your expectation more than Toby Pink did. Fantastic stuff by Mr. Pink. Shout out him and Chloe, the best couple in football. But look, loving Toby Pink, and I'm really excited to see what he can do. Did he get a 1 or a 2 year extension? I can't remember. Let me know in the YouTube comments. But A+, he's the epitome of what A+ is all about. So over par, exceeding your expectation by so much and becoming such a reliable pillar down there. Comben and Pink were so reliable all season. Our defense would have been so much worse if they weren't down there. Braden George, NA. Jackson Archer played a couple of games, but we thought maybe not to rank him. I know before I said if you've played a game, we take into your VFL form in consideration. He didn't have any VFL form. He was injured most of the year. When he played, I think he was pretty good. I love his role in the team, but I don't think it's fair to rank him. Matty Whitlock, B- for Matt Whitlock. Didn't play as much as he potentially could have. I think he was around par, maybe slightly under par, because first round pick, there was key position spots up for grabs. He was getting thrown around forward and back a little bit. When he came in, I think he was okay against the Swans, although the coaching in that Swans game for 4 key defenders was ridiculous. He showed some signs, though, showed some awareness, a little step around, some good disposal from him, a couple of marks down the back line. I like what Whitlock was bringing, but, got dropped, and then the middle patch of the year for him, I think he picked up a knock, and then his form was sort of okay. Did make his way back into the side later in the year after getting moved forward, which I loved, and I still think we should be playing him forward. But even when he came forward in that Richmond game, I mean, his goal was a bit of a gimme. Loved that he kicked the goal. Loved the celebration. Loved the buzz cut he had too. But maybe slightly under expectation for Matty Whitlock, even though I love the guy and maybe that's a little bit harsh. But a first-round pick in a team where key position spots are up for grabs. Cooper Trembath came in and did what he did. Finbar came in over him and that sort of stuff. There were spots up for grabs, and that's maybe why I'm giving him a B-. So B-. River Stevens, NA, didn't play a game, obviously. Good luck to River in the 2s. Cooper Harvey was an interesting one. So we've gone with A- because And this was one where I was thinking maybe less, but the chat convinced me that I was wrong on this, where he wasn't expected to play a game. He didn't play a game the year before. Did you expect him to play a game this year? I don't think you did. If you did, you're either making it up or you're just a Cooper Harvey stan. I wasn't expecting him to play games at all this year, to be honest. His form in the twos, and once again, if you play enough games at AFL level, we're giving your twos performance. We're taking it into consideration. He was fantastic in the twos. We were calling for this guy to play since before the bye. All he could have done after the year he had the year before was rip it up in the twos, kick goals, come in and kick goals again. And he did that. So look, A- I think is fair. Was he absolutely undroppable when he came into the ones? Maybe not, but you couldn't have asked for much more, even though, he went missing in a couple of the games that he played. But I think A- is pretty spot on. So thank you to the chat for that one, for convincing me that it was something different than what I was going to go with. Now, this is one that we agreed on in the chat. I turned some people's opinions around. Tristan Sherry. A for Tristan Sherry. He was not as good as last year, and that sent people off the wall. Stats suggest that last year he was the All-Australian ruckman. Gawn just got a legacy pick. That was a rubbish call from him. But, he was absolutely the All-Australian ruckman last year. This year, I don't think so. I think Grundy's second half of the year, I think him and Grundy had a pretty similar year when you take in all 24 games. Gawn was probably better than Sherry this year, and I don't like saying it. I love Tristan, but he probably was. Once again, getting an A is not a bad thing. He's an A-plus player on our list. I get that, but our expectation was All-Australian. He's slightly under par from that, I believe, even though that still is an incredibly good player and one of the best ruckmen in the league. So A makes complete sense. Hopefully everyone understands that in the comments. There's a few people in the chat saying, A+, what are you talking about? They looked at the stats and the stats are slightly down. Once again, still getting an A. Pretty good. But yeah, slightly under what he did last year, and that's why he gets the A. Finbar Malley. B, we went for Finbar. I didn't expect him to play a game, but then when he came in, he had some moments, but didn't hold down his spot and wasn't a player that we're all like, that's the guy. So I think B is pretty fair. Played, but then when he played, didn't blow anyone's mind. And I think B is perfectly on the money for what he did. VFL form definitely picked up a lot and a big improvement from him. So fantastic job by Finbar for getting into the team. Had his moments. The Essendon game was very exciting. Kicked a few against Richmond. But then there was other games where he didn't really impact the scoreboard. And he contested every single mark, but there's a few he should have probably clunked that he didn't. So I think B is pretty fair for Finbar. Eddie Ford, NA for him, didn't play a game. Really sad with Eddie Ford. I really wish he played. And I really wish he got more opportunity, but he did not. My guy, Eddie Ford, did the live show with him. Shout out to Eddie. Thank you for that. It was an awesome meeting you. And look, I hope another team picks him up. I think they should. For some reason, I don't think they will. But I think they should because he's got something at AFL level. Absolutely. Jacob Constanti. This was another one that people were a bit up and down about. We've given him a B. Played every game. Defensive pressure was unreal. There was a lot of good tagging jobs he did. The problem was the scoring and didn't impact the scoreboard. Now, we've grown to not like Constanti, not me, but a section of the fan base. And this is what I don't want from these ratings, because I think people are going to look at that and go, B, Constanti, no way. He's a D, man. He didn't kick any goals and he played every game. He was the steak knives in that deal. He wasn't even expected to play every game. And his tackle pressure was great. He was a really key part of us not conceding through the midfield as much as possible. Did a great job on Lockie Ash, Ed Richards, I believe, off halfback, or Bailey Dale, whichever one it was. Bailey Dale, I believe, sorry. If he can fit, he got goal opportunities. If he can tighten that up, I think he's got a spot on this team. So I think B is pretty fair. Didn't expect him to play as much as he did, so that's over expectation. And the defensive stuff was really, really good. But then, goal effectiveness and goal threat maybe under par. 11 goals, 13 for the year. So 24 shots in 23 games. Yeah, yeah. I think B is pretty fair for Constanti. I like him, and I think if he can he's 20 years old, it's his first season he's ever played. If he can become more of a goal threat, I think he can be that small forward. Not saying he's going to be a finals team or premiership sort of player, but you never know. He's only 20 years old, so B is fair for Constanti. Callum Dawson, D. I mean, he got subbed out of a game where he was really bad against Freo. Got delisted. I think he was probably arguably ahead of Pink on people's radar for defenders coming into the season and never really showed it. So I think D is pretty fair for Dawson. Wasn't horrendous when he came in, but so he's not getting D minus or an F or anything like that. But D for Dawson, I think is pretty fitting for Callum. Now, this is an interesting one because he's in a similar situation. Bryn Teakle played about the same amount of games, got delisted as well. But I think when Bryn Teakle played, he was much better than what Callum Dawson was. Tried his guts out in the ruck against Sydney, held his spot. He played 3 games in a row, and I think he competed really well. Kicked a goal, took a few nice marks. I like Bryn Teakle, and I think he should have maybe been kept over Coleman Jones, but I can understand why, because Coleman Jones has a slightly higher ceiling, even though Bryn Teakle is going to be more consistent. We've gone with C for Bryn Teakle, basically, which I think is pretty correct. I sort of thought he'd play a little bit more. He didn't. Once again, that key position forward spot was up for grabs. I think Finbar getting a chance over him maybe was a little bit harsh at the start, but I sort of see why that happened as the year went on. Got delisted in the end, but wasn't that bad when he came in. I think he got delisted more because we can't keep that many ruckmen on the list, to be honest. Sherry, Coleman Jones, rumoured has a 1-year deal, and Goad is stepping up big time. I think that's the ruck trio for next year. The Bull, the Zoo, Cam Zurhaar. A for Cam Zurhaar. A. We didn't go A+ because I think Curtis was probably better than him, and I think Bull's expectation was high because he got that big deal. Went missing in a few games, but overall, fantastic season from Cam Zurhaar. I believe it's the most goals in his career. Let me have a look here at the stats. But look, he was so reliable for a lot of the season. I mean, 38 goals from 22 games. Not quite as good goal conversion rate as Curtis. 24 behinds as well, so not the most accurate from him. So maybe that's why we'll give him an A. But look, I think that's the best goal return of his career. He had 34 in 22. It is. He had 26 in 2019. Wow, what a crazy year that would have been. I want to look up 2019 Cam Zurhaar highlights. He's been around for a while now, Cam Zurhaar. 2017 played 4 games. 2018 played 5. So anyway, he's a pillar of this team now. He was someone we talked about like a Jake Stringer, where does he get a 1-year deal and he sort of packs it in a little bit and cruises. Last year we weren't overly stoked with him, but fantastic stuff for Bull this season. Love him. Cold hero. Going to be a North player for life now. And yeah, it's fantastic stuff. Robert Hansen Jr., here's another one that I think people are just going to say F or D. Have a think about this, right? I think he played 12 games. I think he played is either 12 or 15. Let me have a quick look. We've gone Hansen before Badge. Anyway, whatever. Close enough. Robert Hansen played 12 games. 12 games, 3 goals, 1. He had some good games this year. Don't just try and cast your mind back to the opening few rounds, especially against the Ds. He was really, really good. I really liked what he dished. He had a sub performance as well. I can't remember who he played against. That wasn't the Ds, was it? He had a sub performance where he came on and was really, really good. Please remind me of what game that was in the YouTube comments. And he played really well against West Coast with a lot of goal assists. And remember, we're grading on expectation versus reality. Did you expect Robert Hansen Jr. to play 12 games this year? You like him or not, you didn't expect that. And he's definitely had a good season for what we thought he would do. Now, is he in the 23? I wouldn't think so. But on the expectation versus reality, B- we've gone for Robert Hansen Jr., which now I'm thinking is a little bit harsher. But the only thing is, I think he had more games than not. We were like, why is he playing? I think the coach likes him for some reason, but he did have those good games. I think B may be more fair, but B- because he did have some games where we were like, oh, I don't know. And he lost his spot and he never really regained it. So, okay, B- is pretty fair. B- is fair. Zach Bench, B for bench makes a lot of sense. I think mid-season draft pick, was he going to play? Who knows? Broke into the team, put his body on the line with that mark, but maybe didn't have a game where you're like, wow. It's unrealistic to rate him next to Trembath, but I think he showed that there's something there, but he didn't show us that there's a high ceiling there. Do you know what I mean? He showed us enough to keep him round, but it's still very TBA. The mark was fantastic. He kicked a crumbing goal, but he wasn't much of a goal threat, and I think that's what we need him to be. If he's not a goal threat, then him and Robert Hansen Jr. are basically the same player, except I think Robert Hansen Jr. has better disposal, to be fair. Did he get dropped? No, he just got concussed, didn't he? So, yeah, bench. B for bench, I think, showed that he's got something to work with, but didn't nail down a spot, which is an unrealistic expectation for a mid-season draft pick. But, didn't blow anyone away. Didn't have a game where you're like, wow, he's got it. You know what I mean? So, look, plenty to find out with Zach Bench. And lastly, Cooper Trembath, my guy, Cooper Trembath, A+. You can't give him anything but an A+. I mean, have you ever seen a better mid-season draft pick come in and do that? I know Durham and John Newcomb and stuff like that, but I mean, goals are crazy, right? Like 9 goals in 3 games, taking marks, had plenty of shots. It's just outrageous stuff. It's just outrageous what he did. I think it's important to remember, let's not expect that of him this season. I mean, I expect him to be now starting forward 50 with what he showed, but he hasn't even played 3 games. He is only 19. Put on some size, a big preseason from him and some good form. I think that he could be really, really, really exciting, but let's not put crazy expectation on him. But look, that's the end of the ratings. Please, if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe and put your comments below what you think. I think all of those rankings are pretty spot on if we're ranking on expectation versus what they dished up. Where obviously there's a few extra things in the melting pot there of played a few games, but we'll take the VFL form in consideration because that got them into the AFL and all that sort of stuff. So please try and understand what we're doing there. Those were the chat's rankings and my own. So if you don't like them, you've got a bunch of people who were online with me to fight over that. Anyway, subscribe, like, comment, get over to Instagram and Facebook. That is the best place on social media to start with Further North. The live streams. You guys have asked for the fan cams to be back. The reason we didn't persist with the fan cams is because I didn't think that many people were too willing to get on. We didn't have many people the second time we did it. So if you want them, you got to come on, all right? People were saying, where's the fan cams? Where's the fan cams? Well, you didn't come on. So I'll do it again, but you got to come on the fan cams if you want them. So let me know if you want them. Message me and tell me. If enough people message me and tell me they want them, I'll do it, but you got to come on. You got to click the link and you got to come and have a chat with me on the live streams. All right. I'm going to try and get Joel. I haven't told Joel this yet, by the way, but I'm going to try and get Joel back on through the week to do a trade rumors episode and that sort of stuff because that stuff's heating up. There's not really much going on except for rumors until after the grand final. I mean, the first week of October is when like free agency and stuff starts. So we'll grind through some content over the next month. Enjoy the finals, everybody. And hopefully you enjoyed this episode. Further North will be back. Rumors. Everyone loves rumors. Chat to you guys soon. Stay subscribed. See you guys. Bye.